That means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plains of the internet. One of these days, maybe I'll come up with one of those countdown timers or something fancy that does this introduction and everybody says, wow, that's really interesting and neat. Now I'm ready for the show. Then I won't have to do this to make sure that it's working. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group. We're located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today, my friends, I come at you with a somber topic, one of those topics that I genuinely wish I never had to cover or talk about ever again. I'd be perfectly okay with that. We've got to get into it. We're talking about Uvalde out of Texas. And the video leaked late yesterday. Actually, we were on the show live covering the insurrection scam committee hearings, and the video of Uvalde came out, and it was sort of spreading around the Twitterverse like wildfire. And we have not really talked about this yet, largely because these are situations that I think are difficult to analyze when you're in the heat of the moment. You know, we sort of talk about your butt being in the fire, and as time goes on, you kind of get your butt out of the fire a little bit. And then that's typically the better time to go and analyze and sort of unpack a lot of this. And there's been some very interesting snafus, some very problematic things under the surface out of Uvalde. But now it's all basically been confirmed, and it's actually worse than I thought it was. You know, we sort of thought, that sounds bad, like all these time gaps and all these officers racing into the scene, but it's actually worse. And the video went around yesterday. We are not, little content warning, we are not going to watch the video or go through it frame by frame. I'm presuming largely that you've seen it at this point. But we do have a timeline. We are going to do some pretty heavy analysis on the video, but I'm just not going to play through the whole thing again because it's enough already, right? It's dramatic. We don't need to sort of belabor the point on what happened there. The focus of the show is more about the police malfeasance and really the attempted cover up here, the attempt by law enforcement, by different facets and levers of power to try to skid this thing out under the rug so that none of us ever got to see it. And we are going to go through and basically piece that together. So let me give you a preview of the show from our mind map. And this one is from my show notes, so it's not available. But of course, today we're talking about Uvalde and the cover-up, and this was the shooting that took place some time ago out of the Robb Elementary School out of Texas, and you can see there just the horror. I mean, absolute horror, right? You know, dead children at a school, elementary school, learning, and a lunatic comes through and executes them all. And it is a heavy lifting topic, and so, you know, bear with me on this, but it is important that we shine the spotlight of justice down upon this case because there is nefariousness that needs to be uncovered, starting with this lady and several other district attorneys and law enforcement individuals out of Uvalde. And so this woman we're going to get a preview of. We're going to learn a lot more about her. She is somebody who was making it very difficult for law enforcement to get a response or for reporters to get a response. Her name is Christina Mitchell Busby. She's the Uvalde district attorney. We're going to learn more about her. We're going to learn more about Director Freeman from the Texas Department of Public Safety. We're going to see that a congressperson by the name of Dustin Burrows from the Texas House of Representatives requested more information on this and was denied by these people. Denied because they're attempting to hide a lot of this stuff and try to make it so that you don't ever get to see it. And there's evidence of that we'll get to later. But we're going to see there were more attempts at covering some of this stuff. Remember, there were shifts in the narrative, nice shifts in the narratives. NPR saying, oh, the story kept changing, right? It wasn't that they were lying or covering it up, is that they were just shifting the narrative. We learned that there was harassment taking place from parents who went in there to save their kids. And, you know, the police were allegedly, according to this article from, well, we'll get to that, saying that they were being harassed. And our boy, Nate the Lawyer, who is our neighbor on YouTube, at Nate the Lawyer on YouTube, he had a very interesting question today. He posted this, or actually this was yesterday. Yeah, today. Said, why did law enforcement lie about it? Why are they lying about it, right? And it's a question, of course, that I have as well. And so that's the cover-up section. Then we're going to get into the actual release. Now, this was a little bit interesting, right? There's a lot of conflicting opinions on this. Some people are saying, look, it's about time that we finally got to the bottom of this. We've been waiting around long enough. Enough already. Give us the material and let us see what's going on. And there's other people who are saying, no, this was dropped prematurely. People like Whoopi Goldberg and others are very upset about it. We'll take a look at some of that reaction. But the Austin American-Statesman is the newspaper that came out and actually dropped this like it's hot. I mean, they released this before they were supposed to release it because they apparently had a schedule where they were going to show the families this stuff over the weekend before they released it, and they were going to clean it up a little bit more. And the mayor and the city council and law enforcement people, they are pissed about this. They are unhappy that this all got leaked out. And so the Austin Statesman, it's explaining itself. It's explaining this is why we had to do it. It's because you losers were trying to cover this stuff up. And then we're actually going to go through the reaction from the law enforcement and the city council themselves. You can see here's a photograph. We've got about a 3.5-minute clip of them. After the video was leaked yesterday, they got behind their white desk there with their, tablecloths, and they were upset about it. You can see the mayor, I think, is this gentleman right here. He was saying that what you guys did in the media is chicken. And then this guy here in the blue, he said, it's chicken S-word. Profanity coming out of his mouth, saying that what the media did is chicken S-word. And, that's a big problem because the retort from the media is, you talking about us or those cops in that hallway? So we're going to go through that in detail. We've got reaction. Chip Roy got asked about this today on a podcast. He's a representative out of Texas. And so, of course, we want to see what his, thoughts and opinions are on this. There were protests taking place outside of the Capitol. You see literally today, there were a lot of activity out there. We've got some clips of that. Here's a group of, looks like women and a young man, a gentleman over here, federal ban on assault weapons, right? So the reaction, the calls about what to do about all this, start banning the assault rifles, right? And then, of course, Whoopi is angry. And oh my goodness, I haven't seen her this angry, I think, ever. Like, this might be the most angry she's ever been. Like Afghanistan, not that big of a deal. COVID lockdowns, not that big of a deal. Mandatory vac, not that big of a deal. The list goes on and on and on. Here, the release, not the shooting. She's not mad about the shooting. She's mad about the release of the video. Okay, so we've got some reaction from her and others. And my friends, if you want to be a part of the show, the place to do that is right over here at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. There's an amazing community that we have there. Who's chatting away? Let's see. Kelly Sell now is in the house. We've got Paula MK is here. JD Harlan is here, along with Matt's mom. Matt's mom is here and says, I'm glad Rob watches this. I can't stomach it. Yeah, it really is a difficult thing to watch. I would encourage you actually not to watch it if you've got kids, or you can avoid it, because I'm not going to play it here for that reason. It's too much. John Q Simple, Echo House, JC the Music Man, and Radice is here as well. And Radice, thoughts and prayers going out to Radice, who is who's hanging in there, doing well, hanging out with us over on Rumbles. Anyting is here, along with Buttercups for You, and Vienticus Prime is holding down the fort. Shout out to our YouTube members. I see K Bean in the house. Shout out to K Bean, Cool Guy 18,000, Curtis Bartle. They're all members joining us up on the YouTube membership or the locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com membership. And they get some pretty cool things like this. This is the morning video that I posted today. This was about, what was this? About 28 minutes. I'm just walking around the neighborhood. You can see some of that. And so that's for members, and we appreciate your supporting the work that we're doing here. Bastion is here on Rumble as well. And another reminder, of course, I am a criminal defense lawyer. And so if you happen to know anybody in the state of Arizona who has been charged with a crime, our law firm can help. We've got a team of amazing people who can really help them find safety, clarity, and hope, not only in their criminal cases, but beyond that in their lives. And so if you know anybody in the state of Arizona, we offer free case evaluations, 480-787-0394, and I very, very much appreciate your support. We've got Ray J, Jerry Wright, Pa from EP, James Comey is here, James Causey is here, Marlon Rando's in the house, and there's several others on YouTube chatting away. Thank you to Playin' Hooky, Vienticus, Just Cause for modding up the fort, holding down the fort. Shout out to Peas and Butter as well. Okay, so now, as I said, let's clean this up a little bit and jump into the three main components of the topic today. First, starting with the cover-up. Uvalde cover-up starts here with several different interesting stories that have been percolating and been followed around the interwebs since this ordeal occurred. We're going to start off by going and learning a little bit more about this guy, Dustin Burrows. He's a House of Representatives individual from the Texas House, and He sent a letter to the Texas Department of Public Safety some time ago. And so let's take a look at what this said back on July 8th. Okay, this was a Twitter post that he sent out. And it says yesterday, he posted this July 8th at 10:13 a.m. Okay, so this is about a week ago. He said yesterday, I requested a video, no audio, be made available as part of our preliminary report to allow people to see for themselves. It contains no imagery of victims or footage of violence. Today, we received this response. Okay, and so we're going to go through this response. He sent it over to the Department of Public Safety, and it came from his own Twitter account. This is what he sent over. We take a look, and this was on July 7th, right at that time. And he's sending this letter over to Director Martin, Director Freeman Martin of the Texas Department of Public Safety. You see, Director Martin is right there. And it says, Sir, the entire 77-minute hallway video up until the actual breaching of the classroom for May 24th at the Robb Elementary School should be made public. And this is a House of Representative individual who is, in the Texas House, and he's on a committee, and he's investigating this. So he says, okay, I want to make it part of the Texas House Committee's preliminary report. That's why we've got to make this public. The committee is, however, prohibited from releasing this video without written permission to anyone outside the committee because of a non-disclosure agreement I signed with the DPS on June 10th. Pursuant to that agreement, I am seeking for permission from DPS to release this video. I appreciate your immediate attention to this matter, and I look forward to your response. Signed, Dustin R. Burrows, Texas House Representative individual. So this is like a permission, okay? Dustin Burrows got the video over from DPS, and in order to get that, he said, I'm going to sign this non-disclosure document. I promise I'm not going to give it to the media. Now, we fast forward, June 10th, he sends this over. He signed the non-disclosure, gets the document. Then he reads it. Then he says, I got to make this public. We're going to make it part of our official public report. Sir, dear Mr. Martin, do I have permission to sort of operate outside of this non-disclosure agreement and publish this? Now, this guy is down here, Director Freeman, and we can learn a little bit more about him. These people hide all behind their names and behind their badges and behind their logos and their symbols and their shields and all that stuff. This is who it is. This is Director Freeman, and we learn a little bit more about him. It says Lieutenant Colonel Freeman F. Martin, Deputy Director of Homeland Security Operations there in Texas. He's the Deputy Director, HSO, Homeland Security Operations of the Texas DPS. Began his career in 1990, Highway Patrol in Winnie, Texas. He transferred to Lubbock, eventually promoted to Corporal. Then he's got promoted to Texas Ranger Sergeant, January 2008, Texas Ranger Captain, graduate from Northwestern University, and received numerous awards and recommendations and so on and so forth. And shout out to ZZ the Boxing Cat, who just became a member. We're going to get those daily walk and talks. So here, Director Freeman is the individual who is leading DPS, and he gets the letter. Now, this is the response. Now, before we get into the response, let's also take a look at the Christina Mitchell Busby, District Attorney out of Uvalde, right? Because she is the government prosecutor. She's the person who's going to be prosecuting any potential crimes against law enforcement. She's very, very obviously, right, prosecuting the case against the shooter. And she's got to, balance a couple different moving pieces. She's got to balance the criminal prosecution against the shooter, but also the investigation against, criminality from within her own agency, more or less, right? Because she's the prosecutor, and even though it's typically a separate division, right? They're two sides of the same coin, right? The cops are the witnesses for the prosecutors. The prosecutors rely on the cops to go generate the business, go arrest people, and then they prosecute the crimes. So she's got kind of this interesting little dynamic she's got to bounce around with. So a little bit more about her. Here, we've got a couple screen grabs from her. 38th Judicial District Attorney Christina Mitchell Busby. And it looks like, right, she's got her, all of her contact information. Christina Mitchell Busby is here. And this is all public stuff, right? 38th Judicial District over from LinkedIn. And then she's got a contact us page over at the DA's office. Now, not much more about her, right? Don't really know much more about her. This is a small town, small district attorney's office. She's probably not running, multi-million dollar campaigns to get elected. And so her profile is kind of low. But this letter is going to be involving both of these people. So we saw that the congressman, who is Mr. Burrows, sent the request over to DPS on July 7th. They don't even waste any time about this. On July 8th, the following day, they sent a letter back. And they said, okay, Chairman, you're on a committee, right? Yeah, all right. Well, I'm going to write you from my letterhead now. And mine says the Texas Department of Public Safety, and I've got 2 seals on mine. So he says, okay, on July 8th, we have received your request to include the 77-minute hallway video in the report for your House committee. We've received your request. You want 77-minute video. Got it. We understand the video ends immediately prior to the actual breaching of the classroom, period. DPS believes that the video is likely to bring clarity to the public regarding the tragic events in Uvalde, period. We've got some very careful language going on here. Like, this is like multiple people are making sure every one of these sentences is in proper order. Do you see how short these sentences are? We understand the video ends immediately prior to the actual breaching of the classroom, period. DPS believes the video is likely to bring clarity to the public regarding the tragic events in Uvalde, period. The video does not contain images of children, but is limited to the law enforcement response up to the moment of the breach, period. Right? And he said all that already. Like, he's already confirmed that for us. So recognize that the audience of this is not just Dustin Burrows. The audience is us. Says, we do not believe its public release would harm our investigative efforts. Huh. Okay. So that means you're going to release it soon? In fact, releasing this video would assist us in providing as much transparency as possible to the public without interfering with the investigation in the manner that an immediate public release of all evidence would. So saying that they don't want to open up the whole briefcase. They don't want to open the door and show you everything. So what they're saying is, if we just give you a little nibble of some of this evidence, that's going to be enough. Releasing this video would assist us. We do want to provide as much transparency as possible, but we don't want to interfere with the investigation. And so if there was an immediate public release of all the evidence, that would be a problem. But this slight release of just this 77-minute video, which is also very, sort of narrowly tailored, it's clipped off at the end, and it doesn't include a lot of the bad stuff, all of that would be okay. But he continues. So, all right, we're not done yet. He says, all right, so all of that being what it is, he says, however, don't you hate that? That means all of that crap that I just said to you is irrelevant. So why'd you say it then? Okay. He says, however, we have communicated your request to Uvalde County District Attorney Christina Mitchell Busby, who we just learned about. She, not us, she has objected to releasing the video and has instructed us not to do so. Oh, well, that's interesting. As the individual with authority to consider whether any criminal prosecution should result from the events in Uvalde, we are guided by her professional judgment regarding the potential impact of releasing the video. We are guided by her professional judgment. She has instructed us not to do so. Oh, I wonder why that might be. Now, remember, this was on July 8th. Okay, the video, right? The video came out yesterday on July 12th, right? So you get a formal request from a sitting congressperson in Texas. Hey, I'm chairman of the committee. I need that. Who do they think they are? The January 6th Select Committee? You think you just get whatever you want? You're not the J6ers. You're not Liz Cheney here, Dustin Burrows. Who do you think you are? So the committee, so here, the other branch says, no, you don't get it, right? This is actually more in alignment with what you'd see out of a separation of powers situation. But this is legitimate government stuff, right? This is not, this is not a political hit job. And I'd like to see if their committee was legally constituted. I'm guessing it is. But that's a tangent. Here, he's saying, I want the video. DPS is saying, we agree with you. We'd love to give you the video. We think it'd be helpful and useful, but it's not our fault. Sorry, we can't do anything about it because Christina Mitchell Busby over there is not going to allow us to do that. And here she is. She's got good reason for doing that, right? She doesn't want, I guess, egg on her face. I mean, she doesn't want to be stepping in it because her officers are not any good? I don't know. She doesn't want to jeopardize her investigation? I don't know. But we're going to see. Now, that was just one little snafu in this whole case. Requests denied. House of Representatives wanting to see some more information about a legitimate investigation, and boom, no access to it by the executive branch, in this case, the prosecutors. But that's not it. There were some other issues. And remember, there were a lot of shifts in this story in the immediate aftermath. You may recall this NPR article. They're telling us, they wrote about this some time ago, and they told us back on June 3rd, right, over a month ago. These are the biggest shifts in the Uvalde official account of the school shooting. The biggest shifts. Now, in other stories, you might call that a lie, or people trying to cover their own butts because they don't want to be caught in it. But the narrative here has, as this article says, changed drastically. The official narrative has changed drastically since news of an activist shooter emerged on May 24th. Authorities have repeatedly corrected official statements after they were contradicted by new information, right? Governor Abbott came out. He said some things are correct, some things are incorrect. I'm livid, he said. He's not alone. 19 kids and teachers dead, 17 wounded. Here's a whole rundown of how the story changed. The police waited before killing the gunman. May 25th, after the shooting, Texas DPS, same agency that Director Freeman works for, Safety Director Steve McCraw, whose agency was being led, who was leading the investigation at the time, said they immediately breached because we know as officers, every second's a life. No, you didn't. You waited for 77 minutes, you liar. Okay, so we're going to get into that. But I just wanted to show you the framework of this article, right? Here's Stephen McCraw. All these individuals are having these press conferences, one after the other. Everybody's sort of, trying to cover their own butts on this thing. And everybody's catching the story changes time and time again. May 27th. Stunning revelation. Incident commander later confirmed that Pete Arredondo had stopped treating the situation as an active shooter scenario, even though there were still bullets taking place about half an hour after the shooting started. And I've got the entire timeline we're going to go through. The list goes on, right? You can see NPR's got a number of different things. Now, you might say to yourself, Rob, hold on a minute. This is in the middle of the fog of war. We've got a very active situation out here, and there's a lot of potential for error. Who knows what's going on? Everybody's on their cell phones. You got different dispatch agencies. It could be madness. And so, yeah, it might take some time for the dust to settle and for the facts to come out. And in fact, that's a large reason why we haven't covered this case, right? Because I don't want to come out here and start screaming at officers if there's no reason to do so. Similarly, right, I think it's inappropriate for elected officials to come out and say they did an outstanding, heroic job when that's also not in evidence, right? We got to wait for some of the evidence to come out. And obviously, this is turning out to be a problem. But you give people a little bit of grace. You give people a little bit of leeway to make mistakes. But at some point, all of those mistakes, you start to see a pattern here, and it doesn't look like an innocent mistake anymore. It starts to look like you're covering your own butts because you guys botched the whole ordeal. And, NPR noticed this. Everybody's noticed this, basically. May 25th, McCraw said that as the gunman approached, there was a brave, consolidated, independent school district resource officer that approached him, engaged him at the time. Gunfire was not exchanged, but the subject was able to make it to the school. Then they say it was reported that a school district officer confronted the suspect that was making entry. Not accurate, he said the next day, May 26th. He was not confronted by anybody, to be clear of that. Right? So why are they making statements? May 27th, another story comes out, right? And the list goes on and on. So I'm not going to belabor the point. You understand the structure here. The school's back door wasn't propped open. It was, and then it wasn't. Total botch of the investigation. So we close that one out, but you can see. Here are the biggest shifts. The story keeps shifting, worse than shifty shift. That was from NPR. This story came out right around the same time, actually about a month later, on June 30th. Michelle Butterfield posted this story saying that one of the Uvalde mothers says that the police are harassing her. And there were a lot of stories to this effect saying that, when the shooting took place, the police were there and they were cordoning off the parents. Parents are sitting there hearing the gunshots go off. They're saying, I'd like to go in there and take my kid out of school today. And the cops say, sorry, it's school shooting day. They have to stay there. Sorry about that. And one lady said, to hell with that, right? I don't care what event you have planned here for them. We are going in. And mom bravely entered the Texas elementary school at Robb Elementary to save her children, says she's now being harassed by local police officers. Her name is Angeli Rose Gomez, told San Antonio News 4 she took matters into her own hands during last month's school shooting, left 19 children dead. Gomez said she rushed to the school when she heard there was an active shooter. She could hear gunshots and children screaming as she came face to face with officers standing outside the school doors, okay? Now, I want to put a pin in this for a minute because this is corroborated by another teacher who played dead in the school, who we're going to talk about in a minute. She came face to face with officers standing outside the school doors. The officers told her she could not enter the school and momentarily put her in handcuffs as she tried to enter the school, right? Absolute, like, insanity. After convincing them that she would stay calm, they released her from the cuffs. That's when she saw an opportunity. She broke the law and disobeyed a direct order. She told the news outlets that she jumped a nearby fence and began banging on a door window, motioning to her eldest son teacher, who she could see inside the school. Gomez told her, "You already have a gateway out, so you might as well just come out. Like, if I'm going to run out with him, y'all just come on too." Once inside the building, she was able to collect her oldest son and some of his classmates, ushering them out of the school. She then went back to the door of her youngest son's classroom and friggin' saved their lives. At this moment, I'm jiggling the handle and I'm going pretty nuts, like trying to get the door open. It's not going to open. So I stand back and the cops are already on me and they're like, "Ma'am, calm down." She said she told the police that she wouldn't leave the hallway until they began evacuating the classroom. Immediately, they started evacuating that classroom and my son runs out to me like, Mom. Since the harrowing incident, her lawyer says Gomez has been the target of harassment and hostility by some of the officers on the Uvalde force. As far as we know, there's 2 definite instances, Mark DiCarlo told Huffington Post, saying his client was recently pulled over at a traffic stop by these scumbags and falsely accused of having illegal immigrants in her car. Okay, so the blue shield comes into effect. That blue code of silence. One cop is under threat, all cops are under threat. They just put up the shields. Oh, what was that? An unsafe lane change, Miss Gomez? Oh, very curious. Oh, your license plate's lights out. Have you had anything to drink tonight? Carlos says police also parked outside her home for 45 minutes and flashed their car lights at her and her mother when they went for a walk. Now, you might think this is ridiculous. This happens. I know other lawyers who've told me that they've had this happen to them. In particular, here in Arizona, when we had that lunatic Sheriff Joe in charge, he would use his little DPS minions as a posse and go out. And there was one story, I know an attorney, she said that they were posted up outside of her house for months when she was going after him. So it's not, you see this stuff in the movies and you see it like in the Netflix series. It's real. It's happening. Uvalde's officers have been the subject of much criticism for how they handled this ordeal, and we'll get to the rest of that. But that is part of the police pushing for a cover-up of this. Shut the witnesses up, silence everybody, continually shift the story, and people are paying attention and taking note. Nate, the lawyer, who is next door on YouTube, he's like 2 houses down, at Nate the lawyer on Twitter and elsewhere. He posted this today, July 13th, 4:42 a.m. My goodness, he's up early. He posted this, and it's a clip of this, right? And these are news anchors noticing the lies coming out of Uvalde.
And there's one big discrepancy that I'd like to point out at this point about what we were told the day of and the day immediately following, that the officers exchanged gunfire with the gunman as he entered and as he walked down the hallway, which clearly, as we've now seen, that was not the case. The officers arrived about 3 minutes after the gunman was in the classroom. So that's a huge discrepancy. I know that a lot of families there were wondering how that could have happened, and clearly it didn't happen the way it was described initially.
Yeah, it didn't happen because the cops are liars, right? Didn't happen at all. So why did they make that up? Why lie? Why lie about it? Well, because they're trying to craft a narrative. They want to seize control of the narrative. They know they botched it, and they all want to keep their jobs and not have the rest of their lives ruined, and also not want to go to prison, okay? They do not want to go to jail for being grossly negligent or even criminal, which we'll see, right? And oh, these stories make me so mad. All right, anyways, the point is I'm going to go off on tirades here. I got to keep it together. All right, the cover-up, we covered that. Now, it's pretty obvious to me that they would have had a different version of this video go out if they had their way. We're going to get to that when we see this in reaction, so just put a pin in this for a minute. They are very upset, not just about the fact that the video was released, but about what was in the video that was released, as we're going to get to. So just put a pin in that. But let's actually talk about what was leaked, okay? The Austin American-Statesman came out, and we're going to actually take a look at the article, and we're also going to take a look at the timeline of what happened. So here, just for a quick preview, we're not going to watch the video because, as I said, it's just too much. We've seen it all already. But I am going to walk us through the timeline, starting at 11:32, walking our way 11:33, 11:37, 11:52, 12:09, 12:21. We have hand sanitizer guy at 12:30, and then we wrap it up after the breach at 12:55. Okay, so we'll walk through that together here in a minute. But we are going to see sort of a little bit of the backstory from the Austin American-Statesman, because they actually published this, right? They're the people who actually released this, and they're very, everybody's upset about the leak. Why did you leak this? We're going to see that there's a big debate about this, saying that it should have gone through the proper channels because the mayor and the city council, they're very, very angry that the families didn't get to see this first. Even though this happened a long time ago, they have not communicated this or released this to the families. And so they're saying that they've got, this was done surreptitiously. This was done behind the back. This was a backstab move by the media. And they're very angry about it, as Whoopi Goldberg is going to unveil for us. But first, let me show you the actual article. Okay, so this is what hit the airwaves yesterday from the American-Statesman. This is the big thing that, this is what the mayor is going to be screaming about in a minute. And says, from Tony Plahetsky, posted yesterday and updated today, tells us, exclusive, watch the shooting video in full. Now, the editor's note, right, some of the reason, we know what happened here, but some of the interesting elements of this conversation is about the cover-up attempt. Why is all this happening this way? The video footage, the audio, and the events described in this story are disturbing. Discretion is advised. This exclusive story and video are being made available free of charge as a public service. If you value strong journalism from the American-Statesman, support us. You can read more about our decision to publish this video here, which we are going to do. But here's the actual story that hit, right? This is what people are seeing. And a lot of people are sort of empathizing with the victims of this story, the people who've lost family members, the people who have dead kids, and saying there should have been some respect that was paid to them. They're sitting at home, Johnny's brother, Johnny is dead. He got killed in the shooting, and his brother is sitting at home flipping through the news. He's on YouTube. He's on the internet, just poking around all over the place. And suddenly, guess what pops up? Billy sees the footage of the school shooting that his parents didn't get to prep him for, right? You have a mom who's mourning the death of her daughter, and she's not prepared before this hits the airwaves. And so people are outraged about that. How could you possibly allow this to happen? And if the media was more responsible, they wouldn't have done something like this. The cops gave them this stuff, made them sign these non-disclosures, and they stabbed everybody in the back. That's what the argument is. And so here's the story, right? This is what hits. Those people are sitting there in their homes and boom, this is the story. So he says he slows down to peek around a corner before going to classrooms 111 and 112. Seconds later, a boy with neatly combed hair turns around and sees the gunman and runs into the bathroom. But it's almost 3 minutes before the officers arrive in the same hallway. And then they rush towards the classroom, crouch down. There's a burst of gunfire. One officer grabs the back of his head and they quickly retreat just before the school surveillance camera captures it all. 77-minute recording is captured from this vantage point along with the body camera footage. The Statesman is publishing an edited version of this to show how law enforcement responded. Okay, here's the full video. As I said, we're not going to go through it. Even after hearing at least 4 additional gunshots, they still waited 45 minutes. All right, we're going to go through the timeline, so we're going to get there in a minute. But I want to show you this article. Why the Austin American chose to publish this video, right? We just listen from the perspective of the family members and the victims, the people who were sitting there having to deal with this news right at the outset, not being prepared for it. So how could you possibly publish this, Austin American-Statesman? How could you be so insensitive to their feelings and the process here? He tells us, written by Manny Garcia, the American-Statesman is publishing a video account of the delayed police response at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde after a gunman walked into 2 classrooms and killed 19 children. The video that we obtained is 1 hour and 22 minutes long. It's tragic to listen to. Our decision to publish, along with our news partner, KVUE, comes after long and thoughtful discussions. The Statesman is publishing 2 versions of this video. One that we edited just over 4 minutes and highlights critical moments, the ease of the gunman entering the school, how he shot his way to the classroom, the repeated sounds of the gunfire, 77 minutes of the cops just standing around, and so on. We're also publishing the entire video for those of you who want to see. We blurred out the identity of a child who runs back to the bathroom. We also removed the sound of children screaming as the gunman enters the classroom. We consider this too graphic. Okay? The sound of children screaming removed from the video. We've also chosen to show the face of the gunman as he enters. This ad just popped up and threw me off track. Says, we also chose to show the face of the gunman as he enters the school. Our news organization guidelines state that we should not glorify these individuals and give them notoriety they seek, but we chose to, in this instance, to show his face to chisel away at any conspiracy theory that we're hiding something, right? Like it wasn't actually him or it wasn't actually the shooter. The last point included much discussion amongst our senior leaders and everybody involved. We're publishing a narrative story, and that's the editorial thing that we saw. And then he explains exactly what happened. So we'll actually go through this by looking at some of the frames bit by bit, sort of minute by minute. And here is sort of the outset of this, right? Here's the editor's note at the start of the saga. 11 minutes, 33 seconds, 11 hours, 33 minutes, 27 seconds. At 11:30, right in the middle of a school day, right before lunch break, tells us, editor's note, the sound of children screaming has been removed. Okay, now you can watch the video and you can put yourself in these officers' shoes. And I talked about this on the morning walk and talk, about, I'd like to think that I'd respond a certain way, but maybe you wouldn't, you don't know. Under those situations, I don't know. But you got to imagine somebody would act, whether it's me or somebody else, somebody would act. And, you have to think about those screams. We've watched the videos, but they're standing in the halls. There are screams of children coming out of the doors right there, right down the halls, screaming. And they stood there. Okay, so that's a key component of this. As human beings trying to put ourselves in the shoes of what's going on, the audible sounds of children screaming cannot be discounted here. Okay, the visual, it's probably worse than the visual sights. Okay, these cops are standing around here around the corners. Can't really see anything except school hallways and some nice paintings there on the wall. But the sounds of children screaming and people screaming from the halls must be echoing through the halls. And that didn't cause any additional reaction. I mean, it's like, it's almost unbelievable. But it happened. It really happened. But okay. So the editors are sparing us a little bit. Let's go back up to the timeline just so we can see all of this. Now, I was going to walk us through the video, but it's just too much. We'll do it here very briefly, just so we can see in detail the amount of time that elapses between the activities here. The video starts, I took a screenshot at about 11 hours and 32 minutes in. The gunman begins shooting at the school from the parking lot, right? He's outside. There's exterior camera footage that catches that for us. And so this is kind of where I start the clock. 11:32. We go back down and we see at 11:33, the gunman has now breached the building, right? So just over a minute, he comes through the door and he turns the corner and there he is. He's got his gun. He's got all of everything that he's going to cause absolute madness with. At 11:33, he breaches. Now, shortly thereafter, we saw that at 11:37, the cops were already in there, right? See the time here on the top left? Real time, 11:37:02. So they're already running away. Okay, this is the scene of these cops running away. This guy in the front actually had sort of the bullet apparently, graze his head. And there is a lot of conversation about this guy. The mayor says he's a big hero and he's the only guy who actually did anything moderately meaningful at the outset. But they're there. Okay, they are there at 11:37. There's 4 cops right here in the school. And there's bullets flying all over the place. Okay, and they did nothing. They basically walked up there. This guy is sort of bouncing around the hall, and they stand around for another 70-something minutes. We fast forward a little bit. Okay, that was at 11:37. We fast forward to 11:52. 11:52. 19 minutes later, more heavily armed officers now continue to arrive, some with ballistic shields. Now you can see them. This guy actually has a ballistic shield. This officer is holding it in front of him. This guy has full body armor and a helmet on. Got gloves and everything. Several people behind him. This guy's got a hat on, right? And I don't know what that is. He's got armed weapons. And 11:52. More officers armed, and they're on scene. Look at them. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in this video. 7 cops. At 11:52. It's not even lunchtime yet. Bell hasn't dung yet for the lunch break. 36 minutes later now, we fast forward. Now, we've got more cops with their guns being pointed down the hallway at 12:09:06, 36 minutes. And I guess that's good, right? I guess that's good. If he decided to walk to sort of stop killing kids or to stop watching them bleed out in front of him, then they could have done something about it. So that's good. At least they would have shot him a bunch of times if he decided to exit. Of course, he did not. So they stood there longer and longer. It's now 12:09. You can see some guys got out of the hallway, but over on this right side of the footage, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 6 cops there standing there. And it's now 12:09. They look like they're ready. They look like they're doing something. It looks cool. You know, it's kind of like when when you're driving down the street and there's a bunch of guys digging a hole or digging a ditch, which I used to do, by the way. I used to dig a lot of ditches in Arizona. You know, you have like one guy doing the digging and like everybody else is holding a shovel. Here, they're all holding shovels. Nobody's doing anything. They're all just standing there holding the shovels, looking at the hole. That's it. Not doing anything. But they've got some good looking weapons and they've got some nice, shields. And I don't know, we're probably thinking that they were being useful there. And, okay, so 12:09, still standing around. Well, maybe they're getting ready to go in. Maybe they're just bracing themselves to go forward down the hall. No, they're not, because at 12:21, we got some other guys who now join the crew and they're like, oh, dude, that looks really cool. I know what that looks cool. I'm going to get mine. I'm going to look cool with you too. So we give this other guy, he grabs his backpack, puts it on. This guy puts he's got a flashlight on the end of his gun and he's got a red shirt. So he means business. We see this guy in the plaid outfit who looks like he's a war correspondent for Iraq or something in the top left. And these other guys are just hanging out by the bathrooms. Okay, it's 12:21. There are the sounds, by the way, pause. The sounds have been edited out. The sounds of children screaming have been edited out from this broadcast. While they're standing around, I've decided to edit out the sounds of children screaming from this broadcast. But I'm presuming that they're still going on, more or less. And because we're going to see in a minute at 12:21, there were 4 more shots that went off. You see that right there? 4 more shots that actually went off at the time. Now, I don't think that I have a clip of that for good reason, but while all this is happening, and we're not done yet, I want you to just sort of understand what the situation, what the context was while all this is happening. Minutes, 15 minutes go by, another 15 minutes, another quarter hour, another quarter hour, another quarter hour. And this is a teacher who's now sharing the story about what the scene felt like while they were there.
He came face to face with the gunman and was shot twice, and then he played dead for over an hour.
I told my kids to act like they're asleep, so I'm going to act like I'm asleep also. And I prayed and prayed that I would not hear none of my students talk.
Did you thought you were going to die?
Yes, ma'am. One of the students from the next door classroom was saying, officer, we're in here. We're in here. And then, but they had already left. And then he got up from behind my desk and he walked over there and he shot over there again.
He walked over there and shot over there again. He said that people were screaming to the police, I'm in here. We're in here. Help us. We're in here. Help us. Played dead. Gunman went over and shot some more people. So as the cops are standing there looking very cool with their tactical weaponry and all of their body armor, not doing anything, teachers inside playing dead, kids are getting killed or bleeding out and dying. And at 12:21, 4 more shots went off, right? You can listen to the video. You hear it pop, 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 pop. Cops didn't do anything. 12:30, 57 minutes later, we get hand sanitizer man. Okay, so the war correspondent who's those shots go off, right? Those 4 shots go off, and they actually go down the hall. They didn't breach this. This is not a breach right here. They're still down there. The breach doesn't happen until about 20 minutes later. So this guy actually goes and gets some hand sanitizer because, you know, when you're in the middle of a school shooting, Iraq war zone, you certainly don't want to get COVID. Make sure you're not spreading any of those COVID germs around, you know. So he does that at 12:30. And we also have 77 minutes later now at 12:50, the officers breach the classroom and kill the gunman. 77 minutes later. And the hand sanitizer guy's over there. He's all wore up, but didn't do much. But he was there. And this guy, they're all, I don't know what they're doing, to be honest with you. But 77 minutes later, these people figured it out, which is just, it's unbelievable. Now, all sorts of footage from, you know, the guy had a Punisher phone, had a sort of a Punisher phone background, and there's all sorts of stuff that you can really sort of tease out of this that are really problematic. But the big issue is this 77 minutes standing there, people reporting their kids in the room, and nobody's going in to do anything about it. All of these people, right, who will tell us every day about, you know, the office, come be a hero, come join the police force, go serve and protect your community. Not a single one of them was capable of pulling it together on that day. Unbelievable. Now, a lot of reaction to this. And so I want to start by going through what the law enforcement basically had to say, right? And this was right after the leak happened from the Austin American Statesman. This was what the scene looked like there out of a city hall meeting in outside of Uvalde, or in Uvalde. And here's actually what it sounded like. We'll listen to this. And this is the longer version of this clip. And here in the middle, the gentleman is going to be talking is the mayor. I still don't really know what this guy's position is on the mayor's left. He's in the blue, but the media is asking him questions. And the first part of this seems like it's a friendly question. You know, the media is sort of saying, hey, you know, we're trying to make sure the families and the victims and the people who were impacted here in our city are dealt with appropriately. In other words, they're dealt with some humanity, right? They're cared for. We don't just drop all this on their lap. They've already suffered enough pain, for crying out loud. So it starts off friendly, but then the mayor gets a little bit irritated. Why did you release that video, right? You are making this harder. It was a chicken way for you to do it. And then it just goes sour from there. And again, the point of this, well, I'll play it and then we'll get into that.
And doing that, I think the video got released today. I didn't get to see the whole thing, but I think things are going to get a little hotter. And hopefully we get the same type of support. You took your gloves off, Mr. Mayor. It looks that way, and we appreciate you. And there's going to be, I would suppose, a lot of accountability. And if there's indictments or anything, you know, protocols that need to take place, we hope that you continue to help us go out there and fight the cause.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'll say one thing since you brought up the video, and then.
So I'll address, so that was a comment, there was a response, and then the mayor chimes in. Hey, I'm going to address this because you brought the video up again. Let me say this. This is the mayor now.
And I'll say one thing since you brought up the video, and then the press will address your questions after the meeting. But I want to go on the record. The way that video was released today is one of the most chicken things I've ever seen. Yes, I've wanted the video released, but all these news agencies knew that we were working with the House committee. They were going to.
So did you hear that? Now, he says all of these news agencies knew that we were working with the House committee. We already played that at the very beginning of this. I already showed you the letter from Dustin Burrows. Did it sound like they were working on releasing the video or making it public? Did that look like that was happening? We got the letter from the district attorney, Busby, and she didn't really hint that she was going to be changing her opinion on this anytime soon. She instructed Freeman from Texas DPS to not release it. It's in writing. So he says, well, we've been working with you to release it. We were going to release it on our own terms, and we were working with the House committee to do so. No, not really. I mean, that letter said pretty unequivocally, we're not releasing it. We're not waiving the non-disclosure agreement. So I'm not so sure the mayor is being very honest about that. And let's continue.
I have a meeting Sunday to give a report to the family members Sunday morning. And then Sunday afternoon at around 2 o'clock, they were going to come back and answer the family's questions and show them the video. Every news agency knew that they were talking to the House. The House went to the Austin American Statesman and KVEU TV and told them this was going to happen. And the response was, well, we all have a job to do. There was no reason for those families to have to see. All I've seen is the first little segment of
saying there's no reason the families had to see that, right? That's the objection. And the response to this is, well, why did it take you so long to process all of this, right? Why didn't you prep the families for it before, it's kind of a boneheaded thing to do. Like, did they trust the media to not release it? Like, did they give the videos to the media and say, can you please not release this? We trust you. That's ridiculous. So, obviously the media is going to want to publish this, and they've been dragging their feet on this for a long time. They're telling us we need a little bit more time, and we're just going to, communicate with the families about it before we get it out there.
4 minutes, but there's no reason for the families to have to see that. I mean, they were going to see the video, but they didn't need to see the gunman coming in and hear the gunshots. They don't need to relive that. They've been.
So that begs the next question then, okay? If they were going to show the family videos, they don't need to relive that. They don't need to see it. Well, I wonder what they would have cut from the video. I wonder if they would have cut hand sanitizer guy from the video. I wonder if they would have cut the Punisher guy from the video. I wonder if they would have cut, the frat boys with their, guns and toy ballistic shields that they're not going to use. What are they going to clip from the video before they show it to the people, before they show it to the families? That they don't need to endure, that they don't need to suffer.
Through enough, and that was the most chicken way to put this video out today. Whether it was released by the DPS or who it was released for, in my opinion, was very unprofessional, which this investigation has been, in my opinion, since day one.
Yes, sir. And I did get I hadn't seen the video. I was at work in Crystal City when the video came out. I did get a phone call from Jackie's aunt, and she says, whatever you do not look at that video. And she was frantic. She was calling her mom in Batesville and trying to get a contact of all the family members. Do not open that video. Do not look at that video.
See, so this is a situation, right? This is heartbreaking. Like I can feel the pain on this, right? This is a family woman who's calling her family, the video's out, don't open it. You're going to have a difficult time watching it. Don't watch it. Please don't watch it. Trying to avoid some pain, right? I can empathize with that.
The video came out. I did get a phone call from Jackie's aunt, and she says, whatever you do not look at that video. And she was frantic. She was calling her mom in Batesville and trying to get a contact of all the family members. Do not open that video. Do not look at that video. But you're absolutely right. There was no...
Well, 2/3 of the family or part of their families are in Washington, D.C. right now.
Yes, sir.
And they're going to have to turn on the TV and see that tonight, not even with the rest of their family. This was wrong to do it this way. The video needed to be released, but the family should have got to see it first.
Okay, the video needed to be released, but the family should have seen it first, which is a little bit of a different argument now, right? It's a little bit of a different argument. Are you going to play the full video for them, right? Or what are they going to see? Are they going to see only the highly sanitized version of your officers looking like heroes? Are you going to copy and paste and clip this out like we had in the J6 committee, where the whole thing is the narrative that you concoct for them? Or are they going to be shown the truth? Well, we don't know.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Now, here's the question. This other guy gets very agitated, and this is where it sort of spirals off.
Mayor said chicken. It was chicken shit.
Yeah.
To release that video the way you did it.
It needed to be released, but the family should have got to see it first.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
The mayor said chicken. It was chicken shit.
Yeah.
To release that video the way you did it. That part of that video was not supposed to be in what they're doing on Sunday.
Did you hear that? He just admitted openly that part of the video was not supposed to be in what they were doing on Sunday. Let's rewind that, because he just is openly admitting we're going to clip all that stuff out.
Her mom in Batesville and trying to get a contact of all the family members. Do not open that video. Do not look at that video. But you're absolutely right. There was no...
Well, 2/3 of the family or part of their families are in Washington, D.C. right now.
Yes, sir.
And they're going to have to turn on the TV and see that tonight, not even with the rest of their family. This was wrong to do it this way. The video needed to be released.
Here it is.
The family should have got to see it
Chicken shit
first.
comment.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
The mayor said chicken, it was chicken shit
Yeah.
to release that video the way you did it. That part of that video was not supposed to be in what they're doing on Sunday. That was not supposed to be there.
Not supposed
they
to be
did
there.
that for ratings and they did that for money. And that's the only reason they put that out there.
Only reason you put that in there is for ratings and for clicks and for money, and it was not supposed to be in there. You shouldn't have put the hand sanitizer guy in there because it makes us look like idiots.
And that's the only reason they put that out there.
What about the cops? Are they chicken shit?
We're going to handle that.
Reporter says off camera, what about the cops? Are they chicken shit?
He said that they did a good job. You still think they did a good job?
Adam, I'm not going to get into an argument with you on that deal. I haven't seen the video yet, but I can tell you that one of the officers you called, they got grace in that deal. In that video, he goes back down that hall 3 times trying to get in there.
Okay, now listen to this. So that one cop says none of that stuff should have been in there. It's going to make us look like fools. He's dropping the S word, and, you know, I owe several violations to the tip jar on that. So does he, by the way. I'm going to send him a certified letter, demand letter on firm letterhead for violating our rules. But here, this is, now the mayor is going to spiral off into a whole nother conversation. He's going to reframe this about this one cop being a hero. Well, somebody has already come through and rebutted that one as well. So let's listen to now this mayor's explanation. Actually, let me just play this video for you. So here is this individual on Twitter. Her name is Serene Myth at Myth Serene. Put this video together, and she says, this is the cop that the mayor of Uvalde is defending, okay? Making him sound heroic. This is what he looks like. This guy right here in the police uniform. He says, decide for yourself, okay? After the last clip, more than 50 minutes go by, Mayor McLaughlin has blamed the media and defended these cops at every opportunity. It's disgusting at this point, saying we all have eyes, right? So watch the mayor now sort of defend this officer.
Adam, I'm not going to get into an argument with you on that deal. I haven't seen the video yet, but I can tell you that one of the officers you called, they got grace in that deal. In that video, he goes back down that hall 3 times trying to get in that room.
Okay, 3 times.
3 different times.
So he's there running away right
I know
there.
what everybody thinks, and we need to let the investigation.
Now he got grazed, right? I mean, that's, you know. Now the guns are, you can hear the bullets still going off, right? Still firing. Still shooting, and I said I wasn't really going to play much of this, but right, he's still shooting. Cops are still there. They're still bouncing around. And so now this is the second attempt that the cop is talking about. He already went in once. He's back there again, right? He actually does go down the hall a little bit, which is good.
In that video, he goes back down that hall 3 times trying to get in that room.
Now here's the third attempt right there. That's the third attempt. All the bullets are, you hear all the gunshot. At least it's something. I mean, at least he's there, right? Doing something more than these other guys can ever say for themselves. And so he comes walking back, I'm outclassed, and he's still rubbing the back of his head because he got a bullet grazed or, a piece of glass or whatever. So, that's the heroic effort. The mayor will tell you that absolute hero. Well, he looked around the corner. I mean, I guess he's more heroic than the other guys, if you want to call it that, but still pretty friggin' pathetic as far as I can tell. Kids are dying in that room. And, I don't know, like I said, I don't know what I would do. But I made this point on the morning walk and talk, right? I've never trained for a scenario like that. I'm not a ex-military police officer tactician who goes through trainings and has all that gear and all of that stuff. But my goodness, if kids are screaming in there, I think what do you do? But they are, right? That's their job. They swore an oath. They stand behind their badge. They're very good at arresting people for speeding tickets, but when it's time to actually go and actually do something meaningful, not a lot there. Now, Chip Roy, one of the representatives out of Texas, is, he got asked about this today. Chip Roy is on with Dana, I forget how to say her name, Dana Losh. Dana Losh or something like that. So the Dana Show, the Dana Show. So please go check her out. But they had Chip Roy on today, and he gets asked about it because, right, this is capturing a lot of attention all around America and the world because the video leaked, and it's like way worse than we ever thought. So he hasn't been able to sort of process a lot of it, but he is a representative out of Texas, and here's what he says.
Congressman Chip Roy, and I know I think everybody is still processing this video that we've seen, and I also think that there's something to be said coming out of Uvalde. There's something to be said. No, people don't have to rush to make a comment until, I know from what I understand, not to put you on blast or anything. I know you're waiting to talk to the mayor, which I think is, I would kind of raise an eyebrow if you were running out there saying stuff without first talking to the mayor who represents the people in the school in that area. But the initial video, I mean, clearly we need to do something about different training or expanded training for police in this new era, I think.
Yeah, so the video was more than troubling, okay? As a dad, as somebody looking at that going, wait, what was going on there?
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to do is kind of slow down and look at all this from top to bottom. I think there was massive communication issues. Radio's not working. I think there was massive numbers of assumptions made. I don't think there was any clarity with who was in charge. I think we had so many law enforcement there that nobody was actually calling the shots. I think that there's problems ranging from the local officials, maybe DPS. We ought to have the full review to know who was deciding what. But why did it take an hour and 20 minutes for Border Patrol to finally say we're going in the room? But I know there was a lot of misinformation. I know that there was a lot of, confusion that day. And we don't need law enforcement doing that. You need to have the right training. The law enforcement needs to go in. And I think I saw something yesterday about one of the law enforcement guys was requesting permission to shoot the guy before he went in the school. I think I saw that story. Again, I've not confirmed that. I haven't talked to anybody. I don't like, as a former prosecutor, I hate speculation. If that's true, why?
Yeah. So, wow. Yeah. And he's taking the slow road kind of approach on this. Obviously he is right there in the heart of it, and he probably deals with a lot of these people. And so he's trying to walk a fine line between, sort of being outraged on this thing and being useful and productive, right? There's one way to approach this. We can come on here on this channel and scream from the rooftops, right? I don't have to work with these people or interface with them. So we can come and vent our frustrations here. But, a lot of these other officials, they really do have to piece a lot of this together. And I think it's done appropriately when it's done with level heads. But do you need radios? Do you need radios when there's 6 of you standing there in the hallway? Like, do you need to talk about that? What do you need to talk about? Cops will get very aggressive and animated when there's 7 of them and there's one defendant or something like that, right? Or there's an outsized advantage, but none of that here. Why was that? Very curious. Very, very curious. Now, Chip Roy obviously having to deal with that. The typical crowd, the typical people are going to be screaming about gun control as usual. And so the video came out and they're going to blame all of this on assault rifles and all of it on, I guess, law-abiding citizens owning assault rifles are responsible for these deaths. And I happen to own, an AR-15 assault weapon, whatever they call it. And enough is enough, right? You see the typical crowd is out there. And here's what they sounded like on the Capitol building. Somebody from CBS had this.
Right now, near the U.S. Capitol, there are hundreds of protesters here who are calling for a ban on assault weapons, saying enough is enough, not one more, after what happened with the Highland Park mass shooting and mass shootings all throughout the United States.
Not one more, not one more, not one more.
And we need to ban assault rifles now so my child can go to school safely.
Ban assault rifles so my child can go to school safely. We talked about this on one of our morning walk and talks for members, but it's the idea that, the concept of why we have guns and why we have gun ownership, it's gotten far away from the concept that it's anchored in self-defense, right? We have the Second Amendment to anchor in your right of self-defense. And now it's gone, like the debate is not about that. This woman is talking about freedom from danger in a school, which is a very difficult thing to promise to people. Now, she's going to blame the assault weapons on it, right? But is that really the solution to the problem? Is it really assault weapons that are the problem on this thing? I'm not so sure about that. So we can hear more. They're all dressed in orange.
Not safe until this happens.
The streets are not safe until this happens, until assault weapons are gone. Once assault weapons are gone, the streets are going to be safe again. You're not going to have any muggings. You're not going to have any stabbings. You're not going to have any pistol shootings or handheld, handgun firearm shootings at all. Of course, everything's going to be safe. COVID's going to be cured too.
Demand action now! Demand action now!
What does demand action now mean to you?
What does it mean?
It's time. I'm a teacher. There are parents and babies who are dying. This isn't right. Demand action now. We gotta do
Thank you for joining me.
Are these people serious? That's not even a cohesive thought. There are babies dying. What does she say?
Thank you for joining me. Thank you for...
This isn't right. Demand action now. We got parents and babies who are dying. This isn't right.
Babies are dying. This isn't right. Demand action now. Okay, so a lot of people very angry about this. Now, again, that lady, I think, was angry about the shooting deaths, which I can understand and empathize with. But here, Whoopi, I think she's angry not really about the shooting deaths. She's more angry about the release of the footage. Here's what she had to say about this. And she is as angry as I've ever seen her.
Welcome back. This story really makes me insane.
Look.
The Austin American-Statesman newspaper.
She's shaking.
Just leaked video that we're not going to show you of the Uvalde police officer standing down for 77 minutes as the shooter shot 19 students and 2 teachers.
Are you mad about that?
Many parents of victims are outraged. This was released, but the paper is defending their decision. I find it indefensible. I'm sorry.
Well, I can defend it. I just did, right? There was a whole slew of attempted cover-ups from these bureaucrats who were trying to escape any liability. That's why they released it.
You forgot that attached to all those sounds are people's children.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to do this. They were going to see this video on Sunday. You did not.
But what version of the video? What were they going to see, Whoopi?
Not have to release this and leak it. And I think it's appalling, and you should be ashamed of yourselves for doing that, for being thoughtless about the parents who have to relive this every day because it's on television. Every time you turn around, you got to see it. You know, and I don't know if you guys over at that newspaper have kids, but shame on you. Shame on, I know it doesn't mean anything coming from me, but shame on you.
Whoa! Did she just spit on the Austin American-Statesman? I think she did. I think that's wow.
Shame on you. Anything coming from me, but shame on you.
Now, look at her face here at the end. She knows this is ridiculous. Look at that smirk. She knows that's ridiculous. Okay, so she gets it. Now, the point obviously is I think she's more angry about the media releasing this and making the cops look bad or something. I don't know. It's a weird thing. She's very angry about it. You know, it's kind of weird. It's like she's more mad about the video being released than the shooting itself, and I don't know. And my question, of course, is what would the cops actually show? Would the cops show the truth to the families? We don't know. But I'm doubting it. And we do know that this guy, whoever that is, he says that the stuff that was released was for clicks. It was for money. And it was chicken-ass of you to do that. And the family didn't deserve to see it. So my question, of course, is what else didn't they deserve to see? What else were you going to hide from them? And so shout out to the Austin American-Statesman for being a purveyor of transparency and accountability and for bringing the truth to light, because we know that a lot of these people, including Busby and including the DPS director Freeman, they can write very nice letters on their dual-wielding letterhead, but that doesn't mean that they're going to release any documents. And as we've seen, it doesn't seem like they were not going to release those videos until they were released for them. And so that, my friends, is a lot of the ground that we've covered on the day. We talked about the cover-up. We talked about the release of the footage. We talked about the reaction and really tied it all together to show exactly what these individuals were trying to do. Fortunately, they're not going to be successful. And so now it's time to hear from you. I'd love to see what you have to say about all of this. Of course, we've got an amazing community at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. John Q. Simple's over there. Molly Pop Inc. Zach Nichols is in the house, and they're chatting about some pretty heavy issues over there. Some pretty serious conversations here. I see something like we'll have to agree to disagree on that. See, it's pretty spicy over there. And so we're going to do a quick refresh on our locals comments chat, and we'll be getting to those questions before we jump into the super chats. And so here is a quick refresh on this screen. And now we can jump into this. All right. So first one up on the house, in the house today. Okay, it's from former LEO. We're going to come back to you, former LEO. when we have a little, it's a long comment, so we're going to come back to that one. C. Rose is here. He says, hey, Rob, I saw you cited Deshani, Warren, and Castle Rock, but is there no way to hold Uvalde police liable for their nonfeasance? And if not, do you think that the Supreme Court will want to set a precedent? I think the breach of duty in this case, failing to stop an active shooter, goes a little beyond the duty of a police force to protect a particular individual. Thoughts? P.S. Where do I find the Answering Legal live video? I don't know. Actually, I don't know. It's a good question from C. Rose. Really good question. It's a sort of a heavy lifting question here because we talked on our morning walk and talk about Deshani and Warren and Castle Rock, and those are two cases. Deshani comes from the Supreme Court. Warren and Castle Rock comes from the D.C. Circuit. And these were two cases that I referenced that really detail this public duty doctrine. And we talked on the show, on the video this morning, about the concept that police don't really have an affirmative duty to go help you. Right. And in Deshani, I think it was, I'm going to get the cases mixed up. Deshani, I think, was a Child Protective Services case where the family needed some help with the kids and somebody was going to come hurt the kids and the cops didn't come help with the kids and the kids got hurt. And somebody sued the government and said, you were supposed to help our kids. And the court said, the government doesn't have to help you for anything. What are you talking about? Why? Because they call themselves Child Protective Services. You think that they have to provide Child Protective Services? No, they're the government. They don't have to care about you. Get out of here. And so that's what happened in Deshani. And then we had Warren and Castle Rock. Actually, Warren versus DC, I think, and Castle Rock. And so I think you've got three cases there, actually. Or do you? I don't know. I have to look it up. But the point is, the police have no solemn duty to provide help to you. There was another case that we talked about this morning where a woman had an order of protection against her husband, a court order that says to the police, he's not allowed to come to me. Husband came to the wife, killed her three kids and his three kids. And she sued and said, you had an affirmative duty to protect me from him. And the court said, no, we don't. Why? Because if you set that as a rule, as a standard, there's not enough police out there to protect everybody, right? And if you had the ability to file a lawsuit after every police mishap, the police would be bankrupt. And so it's an untenable rule. And that is the reason why, C. Rose, I don't think that there is much liability here. The cops, they're going to just chalk all this up to fog of war. And I don't think you're going to see any criminal charges because they've got all sorts of layered immunity, right? This is the stuff I complain about all the time. Qualified immunity. They get the benefit of the doubt on every stinking time, almost every time. They get the benefit of the doubt unless there is sort of a public war against a particular officer. Then you see people like Derek Chauvin go down when there was plenty of reasonable doubt. Anyways, here's another one from C. Reed. He says, Rob, the 2,000 mules has been debunked. And this is a clip saying the wood chipper don't care. All right. So thank you for that, C. Reed. Miss Lucky is here, says, Sergeant Bob here. I don't know why anyone pays attention to celebrities like Whoopi. It's because she says ridiculous things and we cover it. Most times they do not know what they are talking about. If they ever worked a real job, it is so long ago that they are disconnected from reality. And so shout out to Sergeant Bob and Miss Lucky, who are both here. Yeah, they haven't really worked real jobs. They make, provocative statements and people talk about them. And so they're useful for that for us. I mean, gives me a clip to play on the show and gives us somebody to say, this lady's crazy. So that's kind of fun. Radice is here. Says, Radice says, I think you need to give out a special call out to our youngest girly in the house. Says, I know she loves it and it warms my heart. So shout out to the youngest of the girlies and to 3 girlies and to Radice. I'm glad that you're all here. Hopefully you're enjoying the show, having a beautiful Wednesday. I'm glad that we're having this conversation. Thank you, Radice. K-Rod says, I remember watching a progressive liberal, David Pakman, for January 6 content that you could debunk and explain real law. I recommend watching progressive liberal David Pakman for J6 content that you could debunk and explain real law. He believes MTG might have placed the J6 bomb based on the shoes. Over and out from Awatuki. I know who David Pakman is. Yeah, he's got a big YouTube channel, but I don't know that a lot of people actually watch it, right? He's got like 1 million subscribers, but I don't know that there's like a lot of views. I don't know. It's a weird thing going. I think that's who that is. Here, Miss Lucky and Sergeant Bob again. Sergeant Bob is here. He says, all right, everybody. When I worked for Portland, Oregon, we had active shooting training in 2006. This is formation action training I noted in the California department store shooting. And we did a deep dive on that. I remember that shooting. Yeah. And I think we disagreed about that one, didn't we, Sergeant Bob? I think we did. We knew what to do. Now it is 16 years later. I think the onus is on any police leadership that did not ensure officers in his or her department did not have this training. If the officers were not so trained, the fact that they did not know what to do or how to do something is somewhat understandable. Maybe a Texas state law mandating training. President Harry Truman said the buck stops here. Apply it to the police chiefs for sure. Interesting there. That was from Sergeant Bob. Let's go down and take a look now at former LEO's comment, because he started us off here with a big long comment. And see, look at this comment. Here he is. He says, just a few thoughts. Former LEO in the house. A long time ago, when I was sworn in as a police officer, the number one rule was that you are paid to make decisions, not to depend on supervisors being present to give you orders on how to proceed, and that you are responsible for the decisions that you make. We used to ride around in rainstorms wearing rain gear with the windows rolled down in order to hear and see what was occurring on the street and to take aggressive action if required. Police departments at one time depended on the ability of its officers to act independently and correctly within the rule of law. I'm not trying to second guess or justify what happened in Texas, but more of an overview of the changes occurring in law enforcement. Street officers are being trained that making decisions on your own might not be the best way to handle the situation, but to request a supervisor to give orders. This isn't about law enforcement. It's about society and its approach to law enforcement. The law enforcement officers in Texas deferred the decision to take an aggressive posture to their supervisors. They suffered from paralysis by analysis. And it appeared that everybody was waiting for someone else to make a decision. I think you call that the bystander effect, right? The position of, if I don't take action, how wrong can I be, versus taking the wrong action. Maybe nobody went in because they didn't want their wife and children living in the streets because someone thought removing qualified immunity was a good thing. Make a good faith decision and go to jail and lose your home. Rob, the system has removed independent thought and caused people to defer to higher authority. I have one more thing to add. That never could have happened on my watch with the officers that I had the honor to serve with. What an outstanding comment from former LEO. Outstanding comment. It's absolutely outstanding. Thank you for sharing that, former LEO. And I agree with you, right? I do believe that. I think that there's no debating that. I think that you would have absolutely acted. And I think that you are identifying some serious issues with this, right? Officers now. So what former LEO is doing is pointing out qualified immunity. People like me rant and rave about qualified immunity, right? Well, what happens if you give cops all of this immunity, then they abuse it and they start doing things because they know they're immune from any consequences. And what Sergeant Bob, actually, this is former LEO is telling us is that if you remove that qualified immunity, maybe that makes it so officers don't make decisions that might cause some problems, right? They're too scared to make decisions. And so because they know they might be personally liable or they might be subject to criminal liability, they decide, I'm just going to call my supervisor and not take action. It's good. I think it's a fair criticism, right? And there is no, I think, 100% solution. And this is why we're balancing these things out. And honestly, this is why I talk about it in terms of the pendulum, because this thing, it does swing both ways. We had a very hyper aggressive 80s and 90s with aggressive 3 strikes laws and Joe Biden screaming about crack cocaine while Hunter was shoving it up his bum. The whole list goes on, but the Republicans were in it just like the Democrats were, until now we started to go back into this defund the police thing. And now Derek Chauvin is in prison, and now cops are fleeing the precincts and dropping out of Seattle and Minneapolis, and they can't find cops anymore. Why? Because of stuff like this, right? Because cops can't make decisions. They make decisions. 4 of them are being prosecuted in Derek Chauvin's case, many others for other types of alleged crimes. And so what former LEO is saying is, well, they may go away. They may not be around anymore. And they'd rather spend time with their wife and their kids than serving and protecting America. And I agree with this, right? I really think that this is a problem. And that's largely why I have gotten away from being so hard on the police. I was hard on the police when I thought that the world needed it because nobody else was being hard on the police. Then Derek Chauvin came out and a bunch of psycho lunatics started screaming that every cop was bad and every single department needed to be literally defunded. And I'm a defense attorney and I'm sitting here going, wait a minute, what are you talking about? This is nuts. Like, I have to live in the same society as you. Yeah, I got a lot of problems with police officers and police bureaucracies, but like, defund the police. I'm not super interested in your community service people, AOC or whoever you want to replace them with. And I haven't quite gotten to the point of total anarchy yet. I mean, I might get there at some point, but I'm not there yet. And so, you know, this is a problem. This is a debate. But in order to have these open debates, we've got to have some really good information, some accountability, some transparency. We have to see what's going on. We have to be able to have conversations about police officers and some of the bad things that they do. Miss Lucky is here. Retired Popo Sergeant Bob is with you. Miss Gomez should have been given a Medal of Heroism. Given what I know, you are spot on. This is from retired Popo Sergeant Bob, a very good Popo, along with former LEO. Miss Lucky says, Sergeant Bob says the video shows no proper formation. They look like deer in the headlights. Weapons, shields, man, nothing without a plan learned in training. From Sergeant Bob. K-Rod says everyone in the community should excommunicate the officials involved. Probably will happen. Good to see you, K-Rod. Jeff Rook says, actually, that was a response here. Let's see what this one is. Jeff Rook says, I've seen police situations similar to Uvalde. Maybe an unpopular opinion, but in those clips, I see cops trying to do their job. Fair, right? And I think this is valid. So let's go through it. I no longer put it past the powers that be to do awful things to forward their agenda, but I'd be surprised to find out these cops were doing anything but their best to address the situation. I have my own critiques of their actions, but I think people don't understand the effect these kinds of situations have on people. Unfortunately, what may seem like a tiny effect in the everyday can have grave consequences when the stakes are raised. Side note, but read it if you want. While in the U.S. Marine Corps combat training, we had some sim round practice, essentially paintball in combat sits. My squad got lit up by instructors, and while I had one of them in my sights, my gun jammed. Got to the end of thinking everyone's gun had jammed with how ineffective all my squad mates were, and they told me they'd shot all their rounds. These were capable people who turned into complete jellyfish when the crap hit the fan. Yeah. My mom was a cop, and I've interacted with many of them. The average person has no idea what it takes to make the right decision in situations like these. The best among us would, in my opinion, still only have a 50-50 split on a success rate. Now, right, that's my point on this. It's like, I'm saying that. I acknowledge if I was in this position, I don't know how I'd act. You don't know. You know, it's like in those war movies, right, where everybody's going through the war and everybody seems like they're capable and competent. And then the one guy's in the corner, right, screaming for mom because he's petrified. Because in that situation, you don't know, you know, we've talked about this and gotten deep sort of on the hypothetical or the psychological components to this. But there was a great book called The Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt. And he describes this analogy of the human being, right? Our conscious thought is really just like a rider on the top of an elephant. Okay, the elephant is going to do what the elephant wants to do. It's going to go this way. It's going to freak out. It's going to calm down. It's going to do what it's going to do. You're just a rider on top. You think you're in control of the elephant, and oftentimes you'll make believe that you are, and you know, you're in control. Okay, you're not, right? The elephant is going to elephant. And in a situation like this, if your elephant decides, I'm freaked out, that's it. There's nothing you can do about that, right? And so, like I said, I try to have a little bit of grace and understand that. But these are cops, and there was like 30 of them at one point. That's their job. That's their sworn solemn duty. Somebody should have done something. He says, I hope this doesn't sound like I'm saying they made the right call. I just know every person has moments of cowardry and stupidity. Essentially, my stance is there are certain moments no one wants broadcast of their lives. Agreed. If all of us have those moments of cowardry and stupidity, it's statistically inevitable that one of those moments would coincide with a tragedy. Critique what you will, but the average person may as well be critiquing lawyers. Totally. Sure, you can see when one does an obviously bad job, but you have no idea what they did to get there or what's impacting their decision-making process, especially in a heated situation. That's exactly right, right? I agree with that. I don't disagree with that. And you could judge a lawyer. You could take my worst day ever as a lawyer and you'd say, holy crapola, you're a lawyer? We're unsubscribed. Downvote, unsubscribe. You know, because of that. And it's like, yeah, do you want, and anybody could do that. Pick any profession, pick any job, pick any conversation. I mean, how many times have you just stepped into it? And that doesn't define you. And I can empathize with this more than anybody. I mean, we work with criminal defendants who had one bad day. That's it. right? One bad day, and their whole lives are going to be uprooted because of it. One ordeal out of 35 years of life. And it could be the most defining thing of that person's entire existence. And my job is to say, hold on a minute now. Let's put some context around this. Let's make sure we understand what we're really talking about. Don't make this into a bigger deal. Understand that anybody in that situation would have acted the same way. And to do exactly what you're asking, or what you're pointing out here, Jeff. So I think it's very, very, very valid. Thank you for sharing it. Thunder7 says, Rob, I missed the first hour of the show. I apologize if you talked about a cover-up, which I did. I really believe that Chief of Police at the time, Pete Arredondo, was paid by the Dems to have them stand down. Well, that is a conspiracy theory right there. The Dems, maybe the supervisors, said the border police killed the gunman, not the Texas police. Maybe certain politicians were involved to push an anti-Second Amendment agenda. Very curious there. But there appears to be a deliberate attempt to allow a deranged shooter to kill children. I didn't say it, Thunder7. Right away, the Dems were pushing for gun control. They're out there at the Capitol. It may seem like a conspiracy theory, but all the so-called conspiracy theories have turned out to be true. A lot of them have indeed. Thank you for that, Thunder7. We have former LEO says, Bob, I was on the streets before we had individual radios. Are you serious? Former LEO? You go way back a little bit. Sergeant Bob says, yeah, radios are irrelevant. If you have a proper formation of 5 officers, you just go in and do the job. And former LEO says, yeah, we didn't have radios. You don't need radios. Did you see Governor Pritzker blaming the NRA for gun violence? No, I didn't see that, but I'm sure he did. We have another one from Vientikis. Says, I'm going to once again point out the chicanery slogan syndrome. All these people of all these groups make these chants and want their slogans to spread, but most of them lack 2 important features: comparators and limiters. Demand action now, BLM, feminism, capitalism, yada, 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 all boil down to little more than being religious symbols. There's a very important difference between connotation and denotation. We all get screamed at and suffer for not following the arbitrary connotations, but we live and die by the denotation and nuance. Thank you for that, Vientikis. I'm going to have to read that again. In my free time. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand what the difference is between denotation and connotation. But that's probably because I don't have the nuance. So I'm going to have to read it again. All right, my friends, let's jump over to YouTube, my friends. And thank you for your support on YouTube. I know that, sometimes I bounce around. I start with YouTube. Sometimes I start with locals. But wherever it is you're supporting us, I'm really, really grateful for it. And Logan Moore was the first one here in the house. Actually, no. Yes, that was the first question that came in. He says, hey, Rob, your show provides such a granular level of detail on these topics. I always learn something. Well, thanks, Logan. I'm glad that you do. I learned something, too. I learned something prepping the shows, and I learned something having conversations with you. I'm watching the chat as the video's playing. Oh, okay. Look things up while you're talking. So it really is a sort of a rewarding experience for me. I'm glad that you're getting stuff out of it also. I always learned something. Your content would fit nicely in the moderate lane at the Daily Wire. All the best. That's Ben Shapiro's organization, right? That's the What is a Woman, right? That's Matt Walsh. That's Jeremy Boring. That's Andrew Klavan, right? Well, that's a nice compliment. Those are very capable individuals. They've got a huge audience. They have something like 900,000 subscribers over there at thedailywire.com. I'm sure they're doing quite nicely. That's a very nice compliment, Logan Moore. I appreciate that. You have a faith in me. I don't think I can talk as fast as Ben Shapiro, though. My goodness. Ben Ashby says, research the school and do the same thing on the kids' death certificates. I'll do that. I haven't looked into any of those things, Bear Ashby, but thanks for being here. Anthony Henson says, what other story could have buried the lead on Hunter's phone hack other than this? Timing, pretty suspect. That came in from Anthony Henson. And a lot of people have been saying stuff like that, right? After the Hunter Biden phone leak, his laptop leaked prior to the election, but his iPhone just leaked recently, and that's just as bad, and or if not worse. And so, yeah, you've got a lot of other stories that you cover up, just sort of like we had. What did we have when Ghislaine Maxwell was going on? Wasn't there something? There's always something going on. Bear Ashby says that that school look. Does that school look like it's been used so clean? Does that school look like it has been used? It's so clean. That came in from Bear Ashby. It did look clean, didn't it? And he says, to find the real truth, you must look beyond, which is that is a deep super chat there. Thank you for that, Bear Ashby. You must look beyond. Sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, right? Marine 2007 says, evil does not obey the law. Already illegal to kill. I'm convinced that hardened schools and better training is the only way. That came in from Marine 2007. And, it is, we didn't talk much about solutions or any sort of ways to resolve any of this. And I'm not real sure that there are. Lava Java Lava with the super chat dono. Thank you, Lava Java. I appreciate it. But we had another sort of conversation here. I know that Molly Pop on Locals just posted this, says, I'm a mother, right? This is sort of referencing, jumping off of Marine's comment. Hardened schools, better training. Molly Pop says, I'm a mother. I pulled my kid out of public school after they shut down for the 5th time. They don't care about our babies. I'm terrified to ever send her back. And this Uvalde situation is so caked in fraud and lies and blood. How can I trust that she will ever be safe out there, knowing what powers in charge are capable of? It's exhausting and it's horrible. Yeah, and I think, I follow a guy named Tucker Max on Twitter, and he's starting his own school system out there in someplace in Texas. I forget the place, but they're starting their own schools, right? And there's a huge homeschool shift, and people are forming, I think, little enclaves and neighborhood schools. And, maybe that's the right trend, is to sort of get out of the bureaucracies in any way, shape, or form. I don't have kids, so I don't know how possible or feasible that is. But if I did have kids, I would not be excited about having to send them to public schools. And maybe that's part of the reason I don't have kids right now. Anyways, here's the conversation. It says, from former LEO, he says, times were very different. Most of the officers that I served with had been combat veterans and had different perspectives of going through the door. It was a badge of honor, right? You're a hero. You get to be a hero. You get to fulfill your duty. It's like going to the Super Bowl. Oh my God, I get to save 100 kids? I get to save the lives of 100 kids or 19 kids? Holy crap. Okay, let's do it. They didn't. Miss Lucky says, great discussion, great coverage. Thanks to you and to all the watchers. It was a really amazing discussion. And that's what I love so much about this community. We've got police officers. We've got disagreements. It's just amazing. Kincaid says, evening, Rob. Both officers made great points. However, I do not accept this as an explanation. Training should have been covered to a degree that they should have known better. In relation to personal accountability, while a concern, this specific situation was far removed from the media noise. Good comment there from Kincaid. Far removed from the media noise. I don't know if that means that you're implying that they should be held accountable because it's not the media, right? In Derek Chauvin, it was a media prosecution. It's not really that. This is a different debacle. Text 1 says there are active shooter drills every other week in a city for a reason. First responders needs to know that and do what's right, not be paralyzed and confused. Nobody is harder on bad police than good police. That's been my experience. I've definitely seen that, right? I've interviewed cops on this channel and I've said, how did you live so long in that agency? And they said, well, it was hard. And I left and now I speak out about it, right? Molly Pop says, it's not above the powers that be to do certain things. Let me take a look at this comment here. Saying that children may be sacrificed. We have a number of people here. She linked this saying it's wrong. The sacrifice made by those 19 children will not be in vain if it pushes America towards common sense gun reform. Not another child has to die from gun violence. Did he say that? Did Cory Booker post that? That guy is something else, man. Cory Booker is something else. I'm not doubting that he said that, but it's just unbelievable. Thank you for that comment, Molly Pop. Let me see here. This is from former LEO. He says, sworn in May 17, 1971, San Francisco Police. 1971? And Vienticus is here. He says, denotation is words as a utility, their definitions. Connotation is subjective meaning of the words based on context. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I sort of think about this a little. I use the word a Russell's conjugation or an emotive conjugation. It's sort of similar. Not really. I think it's a little bit different. Yours is a little bit more technical. But an emotive conjugation or a Russell's conjugation is when you change words to sort of create a narrative with the words. So like one example would be like, I perspire when I'm working out. You sweat like a pig, and she glows when she sweats. She glows. Look at that woman. Woo, she's glowing. I'm perspiring because I'm very clean and, I take care of myself. And so I'm very kind of highly maintained. And so I just perspire. Not a big deal. You sweat like a pig though. Okay. We're sort of saying the same thing, but we're using different words and different language. Some of it has utility. Some of it is emotive. It encourages people to feel something. And you see this oftentimes in the law, right? So like, somebody left the premises. She left the premises. Okay. With permission, did she steal something? She left the premises. Well, that might be different. A defense attorney might say, she returned home, right? She returned home. A prosecutor might say, she fled the scene, right? She fled the scene. I say she returned home, fled the scene, when really this person just left the physical location, right? So one of those is sort of utility. She physically left the location. I say she returned home because she's a nice gal, needed to go home to her mom. Prosecutor says she fled the scene because she's a dangerous criminal. But it's all describing the same content, the same conduct, right? So it is very interesting to play around with language like that. Thank you, VNTKISS, for it. And we're going to do one final refresh before we wrap it up for the day. Sergeant Bob says, former LEO is the tribal elder. I started in June 1976. Thunder 7 says, why did you pass my comment on Dan Bongino? I didn't intend to. Kincaid says, so small community schooling and yet the government will tax harshly. I mean, the situation should have caused pause, and especially for them, given what was at stake. Jeremy says the difference between connotations and denotations is similar to implied versus literal meaning. And Thunder 7 says, I missed his comment. So let's see where that one is. And I'm scrolling. Yes, here it is. Dan Bongino says he commented on the shooter and how he was allowed to purchase guns after he'd been arrested for previously threatening to shoot up the school. He knows guns and asked why a poor immigrant would buy 2 very expensive rifles instead of one much cheaper one. Where did the money come from? He also has a brand new truck that he crashed that day. Also purchased a handgun too. Everything probably totaled $10,000. The mentally ill man didn't work. Makes you really think about the deeper realization of this mass shooting. Truck was grandmother's, who he shot in the face. Did he? And he could have crowdsourced the money to buy the weapons. The world operates on 4chan from Tex 1. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where he got the money. I don't know where he got all these funds and where it all came from. But yeah, firearms are expensive. And, there's thousands of dollars that are required to go into it. How did I miss all these comments? I think I got another one from John Q. Simple that I flew by. I'm not sure how. But here's John Q. Simple. He said that they had training recently. He shared this story over from Fox News, which tells us that back on May 28th, they published this saying, Uvalde, Texas police hosted live active shooter training in March. In March, they had a session called Stop. They had a session called Stop the Dying. They had training on what to do during an active shooter just 2 months before the gunman stormed the elementary school. So, okay, what good is more training, I guess? They did training and it happened anyways, which is just unbelievable. So that came over from John Q. Simple. And I think that, my friends, is everything that we have got on our locals community. And so we're going to leave it there. I know that Vicky Dreams just sent in a super chat saying, you are a asterisk. I think she means star. You are a star. Thank you, Vicky. That's very sweet of you. That's an asterisk, right? Yeah. It's one of the better symbols on the number key row. I mean, asterisk. I mean, if you called me a percentage symbol or like a, ampersand or something, that's kind of lame. I'll take the asterisk. Thank you very much, Vicky Dreams, for that. Lava Java Lava, Marine 2007. Very grateful for all of the support. We've got several new members who joined up here today, which I'm grateful for. ZZ the Boxing Cat is now a member. We have Stephanie Olson became a member. Woo! And Betrayed by Corrupt Scumbags are all now members at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is super cool. We've got some cool stuff that goes out there every day. We're doing live, basically every day. Sometimes I'll take a day off, but we do these morning walk and talk videos. This is what they look like. And there's some comments that go on afterwards, and sort of this is what it sounds like, right?
Hope you're having a beautiful day today.
Hey, that's me.
It is Wednesday. It's hump day.
Hey.
We had a lot of progress.
Whoa.
Unpacking what took place.
So you can see it's early in the morning. I'm a little bit of a different attitude, but by the end of the videos, I'm starting to perk up a little bit. I shoot these at about 6:30 in the mornings. So if you want to get some of that and carry on the conversation, please sign up at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. If you're a supporter on YouTube, you get those same videos as well. And so watchingthewatchers.locals.com, YouTube membership, click the join button right next to subscribe, and we can carry on the conversation. But that, my friends, is it for us for the day. So we are going to wrap it up right there. Leave it there for the evening. If you know anybody in the state of Arizona charged with a crime, I would very much appreciate it if you kept our law firm in mind for your referrals. R&R Law Group, 480-787-0394. Our mission is to help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope. We're passionate about the work that we do, and your referrals keep our team fighting every day in the courts. We have a lot of fun here on YouTube, but these are the values we stand for: accountability, transparency, and justice here, safety, clarity, and hope for our clients. And we're passionate about the work. And the more that you support our efforts, the more time we spend here together. And it's a very beautiful relationship. I'm grateful for it. Now, I want to also thank the mods who keep the fort down, hold the fort down every show. Shout out to Vientikis, K-Bean in the house. Lean is here. Lean is still trying on the mod role. Okay, I saw in the chat, Lean's like, anybody want my wrench out here? Ugh. Lean, it looks good on you. You look fabulous. Zulu has not been in the house lately. Just Cause is here. Lean is here. And Playing Hooky #1, of course. And before we wrap it up, final shout outs to our Spotlight supporters. The biggest supporters we have here on the show. John Q Simple. Check out qsimple.com for his work and connect and support, the people who support the show. Go to qsimple.com. Visit that website. Can't go wrong. Chris Romero. Oh, Geomancy Games is also a mod here, so we got to put Geomancy Games, I think, is his username, and so he does some modding. He's got a channel over on YouTube as well. Vientikis just reminded us. But the Spotlight supporters: John Q Simple, qsimple.com. Chris Romero, please check Chris and David B3 and Dr. EMB. They don't even want a link. They're just like, hey, like the work. But if you want a link, please send me a link. If you want some screen real estate on this, we can make it mutually beneficial, right? And it's supporting our work. I'm grateful for it. So if you're at a Spotlight supporter over on YouTube or an equivalent amount on local, send me an email. I will add you to the list. And let's see who else. Oh my gosh, Lava Java Lava is here. I forgot. We modded up a bunch of people that I forgot to add. Lava Java Lava is modding up the place. What a jerk, man. Lava, I'm sorry about that. Please forgive me. Thank you for modding up the fort. Lean says, hot as ever, Rob. And I'm not, you might be talking about Arizona. I don't know. But final shout outs to all of our supporters in the chat. Curtis Bartle's a member. Jenny B's a member. John McGarvey's a member over on YouTube. Betrayed by corrupt scumbags is now in the house, which I think we can all relate to that. It doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you're on. It's sort of like the Patriot Act, right? It sounds just good. Oh yeah, I'm a patriot. I can get behind a Patriot Act. I love America. Here we have betrayed by corrupt scumbags. Yeah. Lava Java Lava, sending in a super chat to wrap up the show. And I'm so grateful for everybody. Thank you for your support. We are going to leave it there for the day. We've got some Rumble final shout outs to give. Anything is in the house. Soul Wound, Rick 2020, Donald John Trump, Dog Digger, and others are in the Rumbles chat, chatting away. Vientikis holding the fort down there. Devil 1975. Thank you for holding the fort there. Over on Locals, saying our goodbyes to Zach Nichols, Vientikis, Kelly Selnow, John Q Simple, and others. And on YouTube, thank you to the mods. Shout out to Lean, Gandalf 420, Marine 2007. Appreciate you being here, my friends. That is it for the show. We're going to leave it here. We're going to be back tomorrow to do it all again, and I hope you join us. Have a tremendous night, my friends. Be well. See you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.